Yeah. Okay, you're good then.
It sounds like Siri or voiceover.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Department of Aging and Rehabilitative Services Career Cafe. I am your host,
Thank you.
Josh Sloan. Attendees, if you're not one of the guest speakers, please go ahead and mute your microphones and turn off your cameras and put the meeting into speaker mode so that you can see well. If you would like to use closed captioning, that is available in the settings. And you can also put a pin on and highlight our interpreters if you would like to use interpreters. The Career Cafe is produced by the Department of Aging and Rehabilitative Services and Virginia Ability, and we are trying to help folks explore career options and opportunities in Virginia. Today, we have 3 different presenters, and we're going to do these a little bit different than we've typically done career cafes. Our first presenter is going to be John Jackson, who is the District Director of one of the Department of Aging and Rehabilitative Services areas. Our second presenter is going to be Nona Henderson, who is with.
Yeah.
It's Mike. It's Mike. Mike is sitting beside Mike.
You're muted.
Okay, we're talking like it was Hapsa. Hapsa's already gone for the day.
Okay, someone is not muted that should probably be muted.
Missy, is that you?
We got it.
Okay. All right, we're back. Here we go. Okay. If you have any questions for any of our speakers at any time, go ahead and ask them. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and get started because we got a lot to get through. So John, if you want to take it away, go ahead and unmute yourself and share your screen, and then we'll go from there.
All righty. Is my screen shared?
Yes.
All right. So again, my name is John Jackson. I work with the Department for Aging and Rehabilitative Services. I am a district director with the agency, and areas that we cover, we have four offices in our district. We cover Winchester, Harrisonburg, Fishersville, and Charlottesville. And then we serve the surrounding communities. One of the things I wanted to do first is just give you a little bit of background on me.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID.
And just a little bit of my work history. So after college, I actually went to college. After college, one of my very first jobs was with the Department for Corrections. And I worked a unit that we call the Developmental Disabilities Unit. And then from there, I've done some community mental health. I've worked with one of the local CSBs. I've worked in residential mental health. And then I started really with DARS back in like 2007. So that's like almost 15 years ago. And I actually started working at a place called Wilson Workforce and Rehab Center. I'm hoping that some of you have heard of that place. Maybe some of you have been there. And I started my career in a program called PERT. And again, I'm hoping that you guys have at least heard of PERT, maybe have participated in that program. And so there, again, I started there as a counselor. I transitioned to the counseling department, which is still at Wilson Workforce Rehab Center. But we focus most of our attention on adults. From there, I transitioned to a field office. I transitioned to the Harrisonburg DARS office as a unit supervisor. Later became a manager of that office in another office. And now I'm the district director for the Skyline District. So yeah, that is enough about me. I'm going to go ahead and get into the presentation here. And what I wanted to do is I'm going to highlight one of the offices. It's going to be the Harrisonburg office. And I just want to talk a little bit about some of the positions and job opportunities that are available in a DARS office. So one of the positions that we have in a DARS office is called an Employment Support Specialist. We have a lady pictured here. Her name is June. I refer to her as the hub, and she's responsible for greeting our visitors. She answers our phones. She handles a lot of the referral paperwork that come through the front door. And she's also responsible for bills that come in and then the payments that go out of the office. And then the skills that make a person or is helpful to someone being successful in this type of position: good verbal skills, a friendly personality, good organizational skills. You have to be a team player, and you have to have the ability to problem solve. Education requirements: high school diploma or GED or equivalent. And then we have another position that we call our Employment Support Specialist Senior. This position is a little bit different. Here we have Wendy pictured. And this person helps out with, helps our clients with applications, helps our clients with resume writing, helps our clients with preparing for interviews, and is really focused on helping our clients become job ready. And again, the skills that would make a person successful in this position: friendly personality, teamwork, good communication skills, good organizational skills, and again, problem solving. This position requires a high school diploma, GED or equivalent. All right, moving right along, our job placement counselor. Here pictured is Aileen. And this is a person who really focuses on job readiness and then placement services. So she's really out in the community, connecting with our employers and looking for opportunities for our clients to really secure employment, and then making sure that the employment is something that's going to be lasting. So we are also focused on maintaining employment. Some of the skills that help her to be successful would include good communication skills, knowledge of the rehab process. She does a lot of networking. She is our job placement person. She does a lot of public speaking. She is a team player, and she's good at problem solving. The education required for this position: a bachelor's degree in business management, human services, vocational rehabilitation, or related fields. And then we have our vocational rehabilitation counselor. And here we have three pictured. We have Darlene, Patrick, and Anna. And they're responsible for providing our pre-employment transition services and also our vocational rehabilitation services. They work directly with our clients. They're also responsible for some of the funds that we use to serve our clients. And they're responsible for what we call data entry. So they enter a lot of data into our data management system. Skills that help them to be successful: good communication, knowledge of the rehab process, networking with our community partners, counseling and guidance. They're team players, they're problem solvers, and they have a friendly personality. The education required for this position: a master's degree in rehab counseling or a closely related field. And then there's the counselor manager, and this is Jessica. She manages the daily operations of the office. She provides direct supervision to all our staff, and she's actually responsible for how we spend the funds out of the office. Skills that help her to be successful: good communication, knowledge of our business processes, budget management, training of staff, networking with our community partners, problem solving, and being a team player. And education required for this position, master's degree in rehab counseling or closely related field. Now, an interesting story about Jessica. Jessica actually started in our office as an employment support services senior. She actually started off assisting our people with resumes and applications and interviewing skills. She went back to school and got her master's degree. She then became a VR counselor. Then she became a unit supervisor. And now she is the manager of the Harrisonburg DARS office. All right. So why I work with DARS? Well, there's our work environment is fairly flexible. We have the ability to work in the office, and we also have the ability to do what we call teleworking, which means we can work from home, or we can work from a school or any kind of itinerary point. It's a diverse work environment. I mean, if you notice the Harrisonburg staff, we have some people who are a little bit older. We have some people who are a little bit younger. We have different ethnic groups. We have men, we have women. So there's a bunch of different people coming together to serve our community. And then benefits, I would say our health insurance is probably one of the best around. We do get paid time off. So when we go on vacation, we're still getting our paychecks despite being away from the office. We have good retirement, and we also get state holidays off. Another reason to work at DARS is that we're in an environment where we're always learning. If you like to learn and you like to really improve yourself, this is a job or an environment to really get connected to. We've made a point as an agency to provide as much training to our staff as possible. And so if you choose to participate in any type of training, you're really gonna just benefit yourself and then benefit the people that you're serving in your community. And then the last I wrote for the Harrisonburg office, why I work at DARS, because they have an awesome district director. That would be me. So where can you find information regarding DARS and DARS employment? I've included on my slide here a website, https://jobs.virginia.gov. If you're looking for any type of state jobs, that's the place to go to get connected and find out what's available. Now, if there are any questions, this would be the time to ask those.
I think we have one coming in right now. We see that problem-solving skills is a component of all positions. Can you talk about the importance of having problem-solving skills?
Well, and I think that's a good point, because there's a few common themes that came through, and I forgot to mention that. So with all of our positions, common themes would be things like being friendly, being good communicators, being problem solvers, and being good teammates. The problem solving piece comes into play because we're serving people who are trying to figure out next steps. And for them, it might be a problem. They may see this as a problem. And so we spend a lot of our time trying to figure out how to minimize functional limitations that hinder people from getting to employment. So we're always problem solving. We're always trying to find the best way to manage a situation. And we're also trying to figure out the best way to help people be successful. So problem solving from the bottom up, from the top down, we're always looking at solving problems.
Awesome. Thanks, John. And I had another question that was, are there any jobs that require computer skills at DARS?
So I would say that every job at DARS is going to require some computer skills. Because of the data entry that we have in our job, we're really collecting a lot of information, and it has to be uploaded into our data management system, which is basically a computer process. I would say all of the jobs in a DARS field office is going to require some computer skills.
Yeah, I would think most jobs require at least some computer skills these days. Well, great. If are there any more questions from John? We got a couple more minutes before we'll move on to our next presenter. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Well, if not, we'll go ahead and move on to Nona. And if you have any questions for John, feel free to ask them, and we'll get to them before at the very end of this, before we log off around 5 p.m. So, John, thank you so much. And, hopefully you'll stick around in case there's any more questions for you towards the end of the hour. And otherwise, stop sharing your screen, and then Nona, you can start sharing yours.
Great, thank you. So I'm Nona Henderson. I am the Organizational Development Consultant for the Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation, which is a very fancy way of saying I do training development and staff recruitment and attraction recruitment for working with the Department of Conservation and Recreation. So we have a number of different divisions that are within DCR. And so we're going to focus mostly on jobs that are within our state parks today. But just to kind of run through a highlight, we have state parks, natural heritage, soil and water conservation, recreation planning, dam safety, and floodplain management and conservation. So a lot of different science jobs, a lot of engineering positions. There are people who go out and work with farmers. There are people who go out and work with soil and water conservation districts. But I'd say probably our most recognizable positions are within our state parks. So I've got a video that I'm going to share that'll give you more information, a better picture of what it's like to work for state parks. It's about 10 minutes long, but I think you'll get a better picture than if I just talk to you about what it's like to work for Virginia State Parks. So give me just a sec and I will make sure this is up here. And
Welcome
Welcome to Virginia State Parks.
Welcome to Virginia State Parks.
Bienvenidos a Parques Estatales.
More than 80 years ago, a great experiment in resiliency brought about an investment in people, places, and the future of this great Commonwealth. Through the Civilian Conservation Corps, a nation was put back to work. And with that, the beginning of the Virginia State Park system was born. On June 15, 1936, Virginia State Parks opened, opening 6 parks all on the same day. And from those original 6, our state park system has grown to include 37, with more on the way. These parks encompass 71,000 acres and have hosted more than 10 million visitors in 2017 alone. They include 345 cabins, lodges, bunkhouses, and yurts, thousands of campsites, and more than 600 miles of trails. And that's just a small snapshot of all that Virginia State Parks has to offer. The Founding Fathers, those dedicated, hard-working men of the Depression, have led the way and set the tone for the hundreds of diverse men and women that carry the flag forward. They greet guests with a smile. They keep parks clean and beautiful. They keep visitors safe, protect natural and cultural resources, and that spark the interest of the next generation. Our park family is strong, and we are always looking for those leaders, those dedicated team players that will make us stronger.
I started getting into outdoor parks and rec when I was a Boy Scout, going camping in different national and state parks across the Mid-Atlantic region. I fell in love with natural resources.
I was originally going to college to be an archaeologist, and I was sitting inside one day and I looked out the window and I'm like, I just want to go outside and play. So a few months I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do with myself, but I ended up in Parks and Recreation Management.
One of my first full-time jobs, I was working at a golf course outside. I absolutely loved just being outside all day. Didn't mind the insects, didn't mind the sunburn, you know, you get used to it, you know, put a little sunscreen on. And I went off to college, had a really good biology professor that really interested me in the natural environment.
With a large park system like Virginia's, including numerous cultural and natural resources, you can imagine there's a large variety of tasks and opportunities each day. Just like a small city, each park needs maintenance, safety and law enforcement, hospitality services, entertainment and educational services, resource management, and so much more. All of this is done every day with excellent customer service in mind, and no matter what your title is or your area of expertise, you may be asked to pitch in on something totally new, totally different. So for many of our state park staff, there is no typical day.
My job could really be anything depending on the day. Some days I'm in here checking people in and, you know, helping guests. Some days I'm down at the boathouse helping with boat rentals. Some days I'm in the concession stand taking orders. I really can shuffle between wherever I'm needed.
We had some pipe breaks, so we're redoing some drywall right now. Sometimes I'm fixing patches in the road. Sometimes I'm blowing leaves. It varies. And then there's the law enforcement aspect of it too. Sometimes it's checking fishing license and writing parking tickets. So there really is no typical day.
Carpentry, electrical work, plumbing, landscaping. We do some trail work. We're chainsawing. It's all over the place. And that's another great thing about it. Every day is different.
Answering emails, calling back with voicemails, doing annual passes, taking parking fees, people that come in and pay here in the office instead of the contact station.
Typically I come in, check the animals, make sure they're all squared away, then I check in with my coworkers to make sure we've got all of our materials ready for programming. Typically if it's the summer, we are doing various environmental education programs throughout the day. This time of year we're doing more homeschool classes or weekend programs, but a lot of it is program planning, research, and some crafts thrown in.
When most people think about state parks, they envision a park ranger, khaki and green, walking through a park greeting guests. But behind the scenes, there's a dedicated staff in the central office making things happen. From human resources to finance to procurement, there are many administrative needs that are handled away from the front lines. These teams work with and support the needs of the parks and help ensure everything runs smoothly. Another behind-the-scenes asset is the courteous and professional customer service team, filling cabins and campgrounds with happy guests and rectifying any bump in the process with understanding and patience.
We're all trained to actively listen to the customer, make sure the customer's understood and heard, and then we're empowered to solve that problem for the customer. It may be that they've had a really unhappy experience and we give them a free stay for another time.
Okay.
Whatever it takes to satisfy that customer, we do.
Not only do we have a small city's worth of positions and experiences available, we have some of the best trained team members in the business. Certified law enforcement officers, chainsaw operators, and wildland firefighters. Professionals certified in wilderness first aid, sustainable trail building, and paddling instructors. Certified interpretive guides, and so much more. Members of our state parks team often have several certifications, and as their career evolves, there are even more opportunities.
I've learned to operate chainsaws, learned to weld. That's not a skill that you usually get at home.
Prescribed burn member as a squad boss.
I got the Virginia Department of Agriculture, their register technician one, and next week I will be going down to Newport News to get the playground safety inspector certification.
Working in concessions, I got my food safety certificate, which means I'm like certified to work with the food down there. But I'd say the biggest thing I've taken away over the past 4 years is just learning like personal responsibility.
Since 2014, I've been to more trainings than I can count to make me better at my job and a stronger leader and individual.
I'm one of our agency instructors, especially at the law enforcement side, and so I get to help out a lot in making sure all of our officers are safe and have the skills that they need to properly do their job.
It's obvious that we expect a lot from our state parks team, but we think the work is well worth the reward. From sunny summer days to star-filled nights, From beautiful snow-covered mountains to the sandy beaches of the coast, there's no day like a working hard in the park day.
I've worked at First Landing State Park, Falls Cape State Park, Twin Lake State Park, and Pocahontas State Park, so 4.
First state park is Pocahontas, where I started my part-time career as a seasonal employee. I then promoted to Park Ranger LE over at Belle Isle, which was my second location. That's where I went through the academy, and served about 2.5 years at Belle Isle State Park. And then I moved up here in 2010 as a chief ranger.
2012, I got my shot. I got to work seasonally at Mason Neck State Park, and then was hired here at Leesylvania full-time.
I started basically cleaning toilets and picking up trash as a seasonal at York River State Park. That was actually the first park I worked at. It was right up the road from where I grew up, and I needed a part-time job in the summer when I was going to school. And circumstances just kind of turned out pretty good for me, and we had a hurricane came through that fall. It was Isabel, and I had a lot of chainsaw experience prior to coming to state parks, and they kept me on board. And over time, I found I really liked what I was doing. I felt I make a difference.
Virginia State Parks are special places. They provide most families from all states and the world. It is ensured that every while they're in natural resources and the raw beauty that Virginia State Parks encompass.
A lot of people you talk to in parks got into their jobs as a seasonal employee. That's what I did. I was weed eating, I was cleaning bathrooms. My first day on the job, I was helping clear a downed cedar tree that had poison ivy all over it. So I got poison ivy my first day on the job, but I still knew after my first day that this is what I wanted to keep doing.
If I've learned one thing over my years here, it's that there's like such a sense of community within the parks, and not just like this specific park, but the state parks like as a whole, as a system. Everyone seems super supportive, and it's like even if you don't know, someone from another park, you see them in that uniform, and it's like you have a instant connection, something to talk about. And state parks in general are really rewarding.
A real rewarding part for me is mentoring young adults. Every summer we hire in the maintenance crew about 10, 18-year-olds mostly, college students. And most of them don't stay with state parks, but every year there's a few that might be interested in staying in state parks and mentoring them along and getting them that experience.
A lot of times it's interacting with kids, which I love to do. Sometimes it just makes their day to know that that park ranger is thinking about them and they can go to that park ranger for help if they need it.
It's really fun. You get to enjoy the outdoors, and working with DCR just makes you feel like you have a big, whole, happy family.
No, you're still.
Thank you. So, like I said, wanted to share that because it gives a really good picture of what it's like to wear a number of different positions within state parks, as you heard the different people talking. So state parks has seasonal positions, which generally work over the summer, about May to August, September. Those could be full-time positions or part-time, but they're just for the year. Most things like cutting the grass, picking up trash, cleaning bathrooms, things like that. There's also housekeeping positions. So many of the state parks within our system have cabins. And so we have staff of housekeepers that help keep those cabins clean for guests and visitors. They clean up trash, they clean the bathrooms and sweep floors and things like that within those cabins. And then the third biggest position that we have for seasonals is within customer service. So you might be working at a contact station. So you might be helping to answer some questions from visitors and guests. You might be taking fee money for visitors coming into the park, or you might be assisting in the office. So for all of the seasonal positions, definitely some of the skills that we'd be looking for: friendly customer service positions. You're going to be working outside, very likely, and it gets hot and muggy in some places in Virginia. So there are bugs, there are snakes, things like that. Not to, which I personally think is great. Some people not such big fans, so just want to that you're going to be working outside. You're going to be getting to see our great state, which can be really fun. It can also be really tiring sometimes as well. So like I mentioned, those seasonal positions, there are also full-time and part positions that go year-round as well. And those are in a variety of different areas. You have, the contact stations, maintenance, things like that were mentioned. There are food service positions in some of the state parks, kind of just depending on what the concessions are. There are also lifeguard positions if you're in a park that has a beach, or there. I don't think we have any state parks with pools anymore, but there used to be. I could be wrong about that. So there are some lifeguarding positions. The education that's required for these really for most of the maintenance, like the entry-level maintenance positions, there's not a formal education requirement. But as you get a little bit higher up, there might be a requirement for a diploma, or there might be a requirement for a college degree as you get even more advanced through the park system. And then as far as benefits, if you are a seasonal employee, you do get some benefits. You get discounts at the state parks on merchandise, food, beverage while you're working, and not while you're employed. You don't have to be there on your work day. But then if you get up into time permanent, similar to what John was saying about state work, will qualify for insurance and life and more different discounts within DCR and within the state as well. So I see a couple of questions that I'll help answer. Well, like I said, there's not a formal educational requirement for some of the more maintenance businesses. So they do employ high school students as well for those. Some of those you won't be harassed, for example, if you're still in high school. There are some legal requirements, but there are opportunities for high school students to help build trails, to work in context, to work on specs as well. An age requirement for seasonal positions, excellent question. I think that there is, I believe you have to be 15 to work within the state parks. And there are some restrictions in terms of you can't work past like 9 o'clock, I think, on weekends. You're limited in the number of hours that you can work, but all of that is to say we do have opportunities for younger students, for high school students. Definitely check out some of those seasonal positions, because it's definitely a possibility. Even if you haven't had a job before, this could be your first job. And I'll drop a couple of links into the chat as well. The Virginia State Parks has a great careers page and just a great overall jobs page. And as John mentioned in his, if you go to the Virginia jobs sites for the state government, all of DCR's positions are listed there, but state parks also list theirs in another location too. So it makes it a little bit easier to find, because sometimes the state job site can be a little weird to navigate. So state parks does post particularly seasonal positions on a separate site. Can students do internships? Yes, students can do internships. We have a couple of different programs for student interns. For volunteers, the next I see volunteer over the summer as a high schooler. Again, yes, there are some different possibilities for that as well. I'd be happy to, if anyone has specific questions about wanting to get into an internship or a volunteer opportunity, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll drop my email here in the chat as well. And I can get you connected with those within state parks who organize those programs, or help answer any general questions that you might have about working for state parks.
Awesome. Thank you, Nona. Any other questions for Nona or about the state parks? We got some great questions, so thank you all for those. Great. Well, we are right on schedule, which is awesome. Margie, if you want to take over, you pretty much have as long as you need up until a few minutes before 5 in case there are any questions for you or some questions for other two presenters. But feel free to take the reins and share your screen and present or whatever you've got planned.
Margie?
Yeah, Margie, if you're talking, you're muted.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, yay. I've been having some issues today with my speakers and phone. So thank you for joining me this afternoon. My name is Margie Garrison, and I am a recruiter with the Virginia Department of Social Services. Today, I know that our predecessors talked about applying online to the jobs.virginia.gov website. And so I'm going to talk to you guys about how to apply for employment opportunities, what the recruitment process entails, and how to navigate that website, jobs.virginia.gov. At the end of our session today, you should be able to determine the difference between state and local positions with the Virginia Department of Social Services, search for employment opportunities, and apply for a position with us. And of course, at the end of my presentation, if time permits, I'll open up the floor to answer any questions you guys might have. Next slide for me, please, Beth. Okay, so the Virginia Department of Social Services is a state supervised and locally administered social services system. So what that means is basically there is a state government governing agency, which are employed by state employees, and we provide oversight and guidance to over 120 local offices across the Commonwealth of Virginia. Those local offices deliver a wide variety of services and benefits to over 1.7 million Virginians each year. Those local offices have programs to help Virginians' most vulnerable citizens find permanent solutions to many life changes, or challenges rather. The department is responsible for administering the temporary assistance for needy families, also known as TANF, Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, also known as SNAP, Medicaid, adoption, child care assistance, child and adult protective services, and our newly appointed program is our refugee resettlement services. So with the Commonwealth of Virginia, with the Virginia Department of Social Services, there are two different pathways with employment with us. Again, the localities across the Commonwealth of Virginia handle family services areas such as that child welfare, adult welfare, SNAP, and TANF benefits. They are considered county or city employees, even though they do provide programs through the Virginia Department of Social Services. And then the Virginia Department of Social Services, we are the governed agency providing oversight and guidance to these local offices. We also ensure that the federal funds and the state disperses those funds to the different localities across the Commonwealth. And we make sure that those funds are are used appropriately. Within the Virginia Department of Social Services, we have a total of 19 different divisions. And I'm not going to go through each division, but we have the Division of Information Technology, Division of Finance. We have a General Services Division, a licensing division for our child care programs, our Office of Research and Planning, Public Affairs, Human Resources, you name it. So basically, you just want to determine which pathway is right for you. Just because it is you're interested in a local position or a state position, we have offices, again, throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia that you could be considered for a local position or a state position. The state positions are not just located here in Richmond, they're across the Commonwealth. So one of our divisions that I did not touch upon is our Division of Child Support Enforcement. And this is one of our more common or frequently known divisions, as we help families obtain child support for their minor children. And with our Child Support Enforcement Division, it's also called DCSE. We have 16 different offices that are district offices that support over the 120 localities. And most frequently, those positions recruited for the state are a program support technician and a support enforcement specialist position. The program support technician, that position will complete administrative and programmatic duties for child support cases. An employee's typical day includes gathering and organizing information to meet requirements, creating and updating client records in an automated system, and processing documents in an assigned case management functions. The ideal candidate would communicate directly with will communicate directly with clients, internal staff, and external agencies as needed to obtain and convey information. This position would also research documentation to support actions by case management staff, establishment, court review and adjustment, and enforcement. The support enforcement specialist is more of the senior position, and this position serves as a program agent for assigned child support cases, engaging families to ensure that the financial and family support they need to grow and thrive. And duties in this position may include locating non-custodial parents through a variety of different research methods, establishing paternity, determining and assessing child support obligations and healthcare coverage, and ensuring parents comply with child and/or medical support orders through a number of administrative and judicial enforcement actions. The position, the full job descriptions for these positions are located again on the jobs.virginia.gov website. That can go much more into detail, but just as a quick overview, the support enforcement specialist position manages a large caseload, equal in volume and complexity, and draws on a wide range of case management and communication skills to influence non-custodial and custodial parents towards supporting their children. So I know that's a lot of information to throw out at you at one time. So I'm going to take a pause for a minute and see if you had any questions about the difference between local positions and state positions. Okay, looks like there's no questions so far, so I'm going to assume everyone's with me so far. Okay, so if you go to the next slide, The next slide is our search engine, if you will, when you go to search for employment opportunities on jobs.virginia.gov. There are a variety of different ways that you can search for positions. In the keyword search box, if you will, you can just type in, a word if you want to search for part-time work. You can put part-time. It can be as little or as much as you'd like to search. I would say when you're searching for employment opportunities and you're putting in a keyword, cast your net large, because you can always drill down those positions. And what I mean is by casting your net large means put in as very little information to start with, and then you can always filter the number of jobs down from there. On the right-hand side, you can search by location, and there's a drop-down menu. You can just go in and select the different locations. You can select multiple locations by holding down the control key on your keyboard and select multiple locations. You can select by agency. You can select by job type, the type of recruitment, and the role. Again, you want to cast your net wide, and then you want to try and drill down the jobs that you get from initially starting. With the agency, each agency with the Commonwealth of Virginia should be located there. And the Virginia Department of Social Services is listed under the Department of Social Services. It is broken out separately. If you go back to slide 3, Beth, there are 2 different codes on the far right, 76501 and 765. These different numbers will coincide to the agency list in the search engine. The local positions is listed as a separate agency. So make sure when you're trying to select for the Virginia Department of Social Services, if you select the Virginia Department of Social Services 765, you're only going to get state positions. If you select the Virginia Department of Social Services local, then you will get positions that are a city or a county employee. Now, on our website, the Commonwealth of Virginia, former Governor Northam had launched an employment initiative application, and that has changed the way that you applied for state positions. Our new streamlined state job application does not require you to enter in your work history. You can, however, you are not required. You can just simply upload a resume and bypass that section altogether. However, I want to caution you, when you submit a resume, you want to make sure that all of that information is detailed on how you meet the requirements for the position. And I'll talk to you a little bit about that in a minute. Our website, jobs.virginia.gov, is also mobile friendly. So if you want to apply using your cell phone, you can certainly do that as well. Okay, the next slide. So you have found a job that you're interested in and you want to apply for. A couple things from a recruiter perspective that will help you in being contacted for an interview. You want to make sure when you review the job description that you note what the minimum and the preferred qualifications are. You want to think about all of your work experience, projects, education, volunteer work, groups that you participated in, anything that you have done you want to highlight on your resume or on your work history if you put that in the application. You want to highlight that because as a recruiter, when we review the applications, we're looking to see how that candidate met the minimum and the preferred qualifications. If it is not on your work experience or if it is not on your resume, we cannot make assumptions that you can perform that work. So please make sure when you apply for a position that you highlight the different minimum requirements and or preferred qualifications that you meet and how you meet those requirements. Once you go through the application, it's pretty straightforward. You can save it at any time and come back to it. With you uploading your resume, you can certainly upload your resume, as I mentioned, or you can include your work history on the application, or you can do both. I always recommend doing both because the more information on your application that the recruiter can review, the more apt that you are to possibly be contacted. Once you submit your application, you will not be able to make changes to your application. So please make sure once you apply that you review the application in its entirety before submitting it. And one thing I did want to mention, as I know the state has, not always been the quickest in responding to employment applications, and you feel like your resume or application has gone into a black hole. I wanted to let you know that that is no longer the case. The Virginia Department of Human Resources Management has tasked all Commonwealth of Virginia agencies to fill employment opportunities within 50 days. Those 50 days include weekends and holidays. So once you apply for a position and that position closes to accepting applications, the process will run or should run much more quickly than previously, as all agencies are trying to meet that 50-day time to fill initiative. Okay, so once you have submitted your application, now what? So it's once the position closes to accepting applications, the recruiter and or the hiring manager will screen the applications. If it is the recruiter, we will make our recommendations to the hiring manager, and the hiring manager will determine whom they'd like to bring in for an interview. Now, most of our interviews are being held virtually due to the pandemic. We commonly use Google Meet and or Zoom as our teleconference platforms. And if you do not have access to a webcam, your cell phone with a camera would be able to meet this requirement. And the recruiter or the hiring manager will contact the candidates that meet the minimum or the preferred qualifications. Let me rephrase that meet the minimum and preferred qualifications to schedule an interview. And you do not have to meet the preferred requirements, but to be considered for an interview, you would have to meet all of the minimum requirements for the position. And one last thing I wanted to add is you want to make sure that when you apply for a position, because you cannot make changes to your application after you submit it, if you have a change in your contact information, such as your telephone or email address, I will give you my email at the end of this presentation, and you can just hold on to that to just let us know at the Department of Social Services that your contact information has changed. Okay, and I know that we talked briefly about benefits with the Commonwealth of Virginia. With the Department of Human Resources Management, this information and more detailed information can be found on their website about the benefits as a state employee. However, we have health insurance and we have 6 different plans that you can choose from. We have flexible spending accounts, which basically is money that you take out of your paycheck and set aside that's pre-tax to pay for any medical bills, any co-payments, any prescriptions, that sort of thing. We have 13 paid holidays, and that includes the day after Thanksgiving, as well as Christmas Eve.
Hey,
we
Mark,
have paid and
I'm sorry to interrupt. Want to let you know we got about 4 minutes to 5. So if there's any questions while Margie's finishing up, if you have them, go ahead and drop those in the chat for us, because we will end right at 5. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. We have paid and unpaid leave, and that includes annual leave, traditional sick leave, military leave, that sort of thing. We have group life insurance that is company paid, which is 2 times your annual salary. And we have optional life insurance, which is an additional cost, which is 4 times. It can include up to 4 times your annual salary. We have long-term care insurance, retirement, which is unheard of in today's day and age. And we have a deferred compensation plan, which is like a 401k plan. And then the last slide, this is my name, my contact information. Hopefully you can see it, but it's margaret.garrison@dss.virginia.gov. And Virginia is spelled out. And this is my direct line. If you have any questions, please give me a call. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Margie. If you wouldn't mind, if you want to drop that email and phone number in the chat, I think people might find that helpful as well. If there are any questions for Margie or any of our other presenters, we've got about 2 minutes. Please feel free to drop them in the chat. Otherwise, thank you all so much for attending this session of the DARS Career Cafes as part of Job Shadow Month. Thank you all so much to our presenters. Learned a lot from each of you, and thank you so much for taking the time to do this. And I'm sure everyone on the call got a lot out of it and really appreciates you taking the time. Folks on the call, please join us next Thursday at 4 o'clock and the following Thursday at 4 o'clock, which I believe will be the last 2 Job Shadow Month presentations. So those should be really cool as well. We've got a lot of other really great speakers lined up, and hopefully you have contact information and follow-up information for all of our speakers if you have any other questions for them. Otherwise, thank you all so much, and we will see everybody next week.
Next week.